What if I told you that Six Flags Darien Lake would not exist in 10 years? Well, if you were a frequent visitor or Six Flags Darien Lake was your home park, you'd probably be a little concerned. But all signs are pointing that this park may be sold off and may never reopen again, which is unfortunate news. So, I have a theory, and if Six Flags Darien Lake is your home park, you're not gonna like it. Six Flags Darien Lake opened in 1981 in Buffalo, New York. The park was originally owned and operated by Funtime Parks, but was later sold to Premier Parks in 1995. Starting in 1999, Darien Lake operated under the name Six Flags Darien Lake. Six Flags operated the park for 11 years before putting Darien Lake up for sale. Six Flags needed to sell the park to avoid going bankrupt, due to the massive amount of debt that Six Flags was in at the time. The park was then sold to PARC Management, and they operated Darien Lake from 2007 until 2010. Then, in 2011, Hergen Family Entertainment took over operation of Darien Lake. Hergen operated Darien Lake up until 2014 when Premier Parks took over Darien Lake again. During Hergen's tenure, Darien Lake was sold to EPR Properties. They were technically the owners of Darien Lake but did not operate the park. To this day, EPR Properties still owns Darien Lake, but starting in 2018, Six Flags took over operation of the park. Now, why does this mean that Six Flags Darien Lake might not exist in 10 years? With the merger of Six Flags and Cedar Fair, the massive Six Flags Entertainment Company now owns a lot of parks. 27 parks actually, not including their water parks. Given the current state of both companies, they'll likely need to sell a few parks off to lower their debt. And Darien Lake may be one of the first parks to get sold off. Six Flags Entertainment Company might not think it's worth the time and money to fully revamp Six Flags Darien Lake. Now don't get me wrong, Six Flags Darien Lake looks like a fun little park. But Darien Lake needs a lot of infrastructure upgrades, a lot of their rides need painted, and they're also due for a major investment soon. Given the fact that Six Flags Entertainment will now have to manage 27 different theme parks, there might not be room in the budget for some of these smaller parks, given why they might be sold off, and I'm worried that Six Flags Darien Lake will get sold. Now, who might take over Six Flags Darien Lake if it's sold? Well, what about Merlin Entertainment? They operate a few parks over in Europe, but I doubt they take their chances with Darien Lake. And I don't think it would fit well into their portfolio of amusement parks. Well, maybe SeaWorld? I don't think it fits in the SeaWorld portfolio either very well. I think SeaWorld will continue to allocate their capital investments into their existing parks instead of adding new parks to their already existing parks in the chain. Well, what about Hergen? Well, Hergen's already operated Darien Lake in the past. Given that they've already taken over Kentucky Kingdom very recently, I doubt they want to add another park to the portfolio so soon. Anyway, Darien Lake might find themselves in a tough situation if Six Flags does not want to continue managing them. And unfortunately, I think there's a high chance of that. And the reason is that Six Flags doesn't actually own Darien Lake. As I mentioned earlier, EPR Properties owns Darien Lake, but does not operate it. This likely means that Six Flags has to pay rent for the land that Darien Lake sits on to continue operating it. This takes a huge chunk out of the potential revenue that this park could earn for them. California's Great America was in a similar situation as Darien Lake with Cedar Fair. Cedar Fair was looking to sell a park, and they didn't own the land for California's Great America for a while. Now, they did buy the land before they sold the park, but if they didn't buy the land, they would likely have ceased operation of the park. And the reason that Cedar Fair bought the land was because they were not making enough money from CGA, and they hoped that by buying the land, they could increase the profit margin of the park. But wait, is there a way that Six Flags Darien Lake can be saved? Actually, there is. If Six Flags decided to buy Darien Lake from EPR Properties, then I'm almost certain that the park will continue operating for many, many years to come. But if this didn't happen, and EPR Properties could not find an operator for the park, I unfortunately believe that there is a good chance that they would sell the land for future development. Similar to what happened to California's Great America. This would likely result in EPR Properties selling the remaining attractions of Darien Lake, and then, unfortunately, clearing the land for future development. Now, this is definitely a worst case scenario for Darien Lake. What worries me is how easily the park could get sold off, and how easily EPR Properties could turn around and sell the land. And I don't believe that if Six Flags dropped operation of the park, that I think EPR would start operating it. After all, they're theme park investors, not theme park operators like Cedar Fair or Six Flags. I really don't see the park being a Six Flags park within the next 5 years. And I really hope some theme park operator decides to operate Darien Lake. But if no one wants to operate Darien Lake, then I think there's a good chance that this park does not exist within the next 10 years. Now, this is all just speculation and nothing has been confirmed. This is just me putting together some facts and looking at it from a rational standpoint. And I really hope that Darien Lake continues to thrive for many years to come. Now, I said that Six Flags might not want to continue operating this park in the near future. But why would they not want to operate the park? One of the main reasons is its close proximity to Canada's Wonderland. Given that Canada's Wonderland was one of Cedar Fair's favorite parks, and also taking into account that Cedar Fair is technically running Six Flags, I could see Six Flags wanting to minimize competition for Canada's Wonderland. And the best way to do that is get rid of the competition. And unfortunately, Darien Lake is in the same market as Canada's Wonderland, meaning that it is in prime position to be sold off. So, how likely is this to happen? I think there's an 80% chance that Six Flags Darien Lake will not be run by Six Flags in the next 5 years. Now, what about my worst case scenario, where Six Flags Darien Lake does not exist within 10 years? I give this about a 50-50 chance, which unfortunately is not very good odds. I just think that Six Flags Darien Lake is in the wrong place at the wrong time. And there are many driving factors to why Six Flags will want to sell off this park and cease operation of it. In addition, EPR Properties might find it more profitable to sell the land than to try to find an operator or operate the parks themselves. All of this culminates into the potential doom of Darien Lake, which is not good for all of us. And I think we'd all like to see Darien Lake thrilling guests for many years to come. So, do you agree with me? Do you think there's a good chance that Darien Lake does not exist in 10 years? So, if you enjoyed the video, give it a like, and consider becoming the newest Theme Park Studios subscriber. So, let's all keep our fingers crossed that Darien Lake does not get sold off, and thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.